Hello, everybody. We're back. Page 90. Bob Quintana. When I look at my 10 plus years in network marketing, it's sort of been a go for no epic drama. I was running a successful management consulting business for many years and was doing really well. It was the typical entrepreneurial small business model where you're making a lot of money, but you're running like crazy, and I just got tired of trading time for money. I always said if I ever left the consulting business, network marketing would be one of the things that I'd seriously consider. I really just got to the point where I realized that my consulting business was never going to be able to create the kind of leverage I wanted. One of my favorite go for no examples is what my sponsor did for me. I had actually called him several years earlier to try to get him into the first company I was with. He was a very successful entrepreneur, and when I showed him the business, he told me, Bob, I appreciate it, but I'm a traditional business guy. I'll never do network marketing. About 3 years later, I got a phone call from the same guy with an opportunity. You've got to be kidding me, right? Now, I had hit the diamond rank about 7 months earlier, but the company was going through some problems. He asked if we could stay in touch, and I said, of course. He put me on his mailing list, and every week he would send me a newsletter out to that he sent to his whole team, and I was on that list. He talked about how well things were going, how they had 150 people at their weekly meeting, things like that. I admit I was looking at the emails. I was happy for him, but my business was going through difficulties. He would call me every few weeks. He'd say, Hey, Bob, how are you doing? How's it going? Will you just take a look? And I kept saying, No, 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 no. After about 5 months of this, he called me one day where, in all honesty, my business was not going great, and I really didn't feel like listening to how well he was doing. I finally told him, I'm really happy that you're doing well, but I'm never going to join your company ever. It's not going to happen. Do me a favor, take me off your email list, stop calling me. I'm never going to join your business. At that point, as I've come now to say, he played me like a violin. He said, You're that into the company you're with? I said, I bleed this company colors. I'm so in. He says, Man, I must have missed something when you showed it to me 3 years ago. Of course, this is the guy who said, I'll never do network marketing. He says, Would you come up and show it to me again? I'll take a look at yours, but you've got to promise to just take a look at what I'm doing. I agreed. So we meet, and he and his business partner sign up in my business. Then he says, Well, you said you take a look at what I'm doing. It's only fair. About halfway through his presentation, I'm thinking, this is a better opportunity than I'm in. I ended up being in the opportunity with him, and then that company shut down. And when that company shut down, I'd become the top guy in his business and one of the top builders in the Northeast. We both ended up going to the company we're currently with, and now my group is a very big part of his entire business, and we've both made many millions of dollars in this opportunity. It all happened because this guy did not take no for an answer. Thankfully, for both our sake, he never let me telling him no stop him from getting me to his opportunity, and that was positively changed both of our lives. Bob Quintana, top network marketing leader, trainer, and number 2 all-time income earner in company history. Stepping over the line. One fear people have is accidentally stepping over the line with a potential buyer. You know the line, right? That invisible, imaginary boundary that if you were to step over, you'd run the risk of upsetting someone because you pushed too hard and you didn't know when to quit. This can be especially difficult when you've just gotten a yes and now you're trying to expand the sale. How dare you ask for more? To make matters worse, not only is the line invisible, but it's also in a different place for everyone. So to play it safe, we do exactly that. We play it safe. As a result, most salespeople never get anywhere near the line. If you adopt an attitude that under no circumstances are you ever going to risk accidentally upsetting someone by stepping over the line, there is no way you can ever perform to your full potential, because the truth is, the only way to discover the line is to step over it. Sometimes the customer establishes the line. I can't spend over $200, the customer might say, or I can't afford to invest right now. The amount someone tells you they're willing to spend is almost never the truth. Or as sales trainer Ron Martin says, buyers are liars. What he means, of course, is that when someone tells you they have a budget or maximum amount they're willing to spend, 9 times out of 10, this is not really their budget, because if you've got something they really want or need, they usually can find the money. Now, we're not condoning aggressive, rude, or pushy behavior, but we're saying that most of us need to be more assertive. And as such, every now and then we're going to accidentally step over the line. If you never step over the line, how can you ever know if you've maximized the opportunity? So, Ray Higdon's take on stepping over the line. I do not believe it's ever a good idea to be pushy. I do, however, believe in being pulley. For example, you can be pulley by painting a picture of creating a vision that someone wants to be a part of that pulls them toward you, your product, or your opportunity. Why is one of the most powerful questions you can ask. I have tons of examples, so let me give you one. Let's say you're following up with someone who watched your company presentation and has told you no. You might want to ask them this question. Hey, I'm just curious. When I originally reached out to you, you watched the company video. Do you mind if I ask you why? What were you hoping to gain? Was there something you were hoping to see that maybe you didn't? Getting someone into that kind of conversation will tell you a lot about the person. More importantly, it will tell you about their goals, dreams, problems, etc. I believe in asking questions and learning about people because what they tell you about themselves is infinitely more powerful and important than delivering a sales pitch, trying to push something on them. I may call and say, hey, I know you said that what we have isn't a fit for you, but I just want to cruise for my company, and I'm curious if you know anyone who might want to earn a vacation if we showed you just how to do it. Now, is that pushy? No, that's not pushy, but it is pulley. They see themselves on a cruise like that, and the vision of the vacation might pull them towards learning more or giving the business a try, even though they just said no a few days earlier. Or at a minimum, it may pull them to a point where they'll ask some more questions. Pushy would be, hey, I just want to cruise. Wouldn't you like to win one? Wouldn't you like to run with me and lock arms and make this thing happen? That is pushy. It's not overly pushy, but it is pushy. Pulley is when you're asking questions that can make them want more information. You're increasing their curiosity. Here's another example. Let's say I go to a company event and someone crosses the stage and says, hey, I used to be a bus driver and now I'm making $1 million a year. Well, I'm going to write that down, and then I'm going to find every bus driver I can and call them and say, let me stop that. There we go. Hey, I know this might not be a fit for you, but I know you're a bus driver. I was just at an event and there was another bus driver there who's making a lot of money right now. So I was wondering if you know any bus drivers who might be open to making extra money, enough that might allow them to retire early, perhaps. That's pulley. If you're interested, they'll be pulled toward the picture I painted of a bus driver, just like them, who is making enough money to retire early. Maybe even enough money to even make them wealthy. Here's the thing, though. If the person isn't pulled towards the vision enough to start asking questions, I'm not going to say, well, what about you? Would you be interested? To me, that would be pushy. Pushy salespeople tend to raise resistance in others. Pulley salespeople, like what we teach at my company, tend to raise the temperature. They try to increase the other person's curiosity to see if they have someone who is hungry, someone wanting and eager for more. All right, that's it for now. I will talk to you later.